Sun, and welcome to Vine Star Beans. My name is Alex.
My name is Sarah, and
And
welcome to the Sun and the Moon Talks.
Talks.
Woo! So, we are excited to have another episode of the Sun and the Moon Talks. This is our chance for us to get together and talk about amazing topics that bring interest to us, but also bring interest to you. And what you can expect is us kind of highlighting a specific topic and we kind of dive into some facts, talk about our own personal takes, and also provide extra tips and resources for you if you want to dive into this any further.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing us in, Sarah. And thank you all for joining us again for another episode for the Sun and the Moon Talks. Or if you're new, welcome to this channel. Sarah and I talk all things metaphysical, esoteric, and really just weird topics that you don't normally have on the street or even with some friends. This is a space to come and land and talk about all of our weirdness. Sarah and I are both Cancerian people, so we can really be into ourselves, and we wanted to use this opportunity to connect with each other, learn from each other more, but also to just broaden this space for other folks who think and see the world the way that we do. And if you have been listening to our channel, you know that Sarah drops amazing riddles at the end of each episode, alluding to our next topic. So, Sarah, can you please reveal what is the topic from last episode's riddle?
Yes! All right, drum roll, please. Brrr. The answer to last episode's riddle is the spirit world. Woo! Yeah, so we're going to talk all about the spirit world and all the good ooey gooey stuff. We're only going to scratch the surface even with this episode.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So, let's dive
Yeah,
in
tell
and
us. Like, and especially this is such a timely video. If you're watching this in real time or soonly after, we are on Halloween or right around Hallows Eve days. So this is a timely topic. And Sarah, can you share a little bit more of like what do we even want to start with the surface when it comes to the spirit world?
yes. Oh, okay. So, the spirit world just as like an umbrella kind of not term or definition, but I would like to note that some people don't believe, like, in the beliefs outside of our human existence are vast. And some people don't
Hmm.
believe that the spirit world exists. They believe
Hmm.
that we're just alive and then when we're dead, that's it.
Hmm.
But around here, around these streets, with the sun and the moon, the spirit world exists. It's very real and it exists on multiple fronts in multiple ways. And the spirit world is really just tapping into the unseen realms, things that aren't in our daily visual things, right? We can see our walls and our
Hmm.
cups and our dishes and the floor and our pets, but the spirit world
Hmm.
is something that we can't always see. Not all the time. Some people
Hmm.
can though. And so really diving in, there's so many ways and so many roles that people have or utilize that helps tap in to the spirit world. Some of these ways are through mediumship,
Hmm.
channeling, psychic abilities. So using our clairaudience, claircognizance to tap into the spirit realm, divination, so tarot, pulling cards in that way, bibliomancy, also things like paranormal investigation. There's people
Oh,
where
yeah.
you like
Bunch of
ghost
shows.
yeah, love ghost hunting shows. But there's people that like they believe in the spirit world and they want to connect in that way. And then another way is through something that I think we are more familiar with, which is religious figures, whether it's priests, monks, nuns, and
Yeah.
those people who really dive in and connect with the spirit world in a more religious way that I feel like is more commonly
Hmm.
utilized in Western well, all over the world actually, but
Yeah.
like it's more understandable that way. But there I just named a bunch of stuff, but it's so much. There's like dimensions to the spirit world. So, Alex, I know that that's like you know about that kind of stuff. So, do you want to I want to see what
Yeah.
the dimensions are.
Thank you for bringing up all those different modalities. Because, yeah, Sarah's right. The spirit world is, or the belief in it is vast and complex, especially on what part of the world you're coming from. There's some cultures that believe like there's seven realms of hell, seven realms of heaven, for example, instead of like a black and white, a hell and a heaven. So, yeah, for those that are a belief of something beyond the physical realm, this episode is definitely for you. I learned, or my understanding of the spirit world comes from my connection with my lineage, ancestral lineage, and the way that I have learned more about esoteric practices such as dimensions. We are like in the 3D worlds. People are believing that Earth is ascending to a 4D reality, or we're already kind of closer to a 4D reality. If you haven't seen our episode on the new Earth or new realities, definitely check that out from last week. But yeah, the spirit world in esoteric terms are actually contained in the 4D reality. And what is interesting is that the spirit world is also combined with what you think about as your deities. So, any gods or goddesses, lords, Jesus, they actually exist in the 4D reality, close to the 3D, which is why it is believed that we can cross paths so easily because the dimensions are right next to each other. Versus if you're going to an angelic or more celestial cosmic beings, they're usually from the 6D and up. So their communication towards us can be more muffled and difficult because they're coming down to a 3D reality. The 4D, where the spirit world lies, is closer to us. And it is of a certain belief that the spirit world interplays with us. So it's not that they just can exist, they actually need our cooperation to coexist with our reality. And I love to think about this in terms of ancestral veneration. So that just means that you have a relationship with people of your family, can be blood, not blood. Some people also have ancestral veneration for non-blood relationships. If I do not believe that the other person has passed over, or I don't want a connection with that other person once they've gone to this other reality, then it won't exist, right? It won't exist because I'm not putting an intention and they can't then receive that and respond. So I really like to think about the spirit world as like this dimension that interplays with our reality and it will exist whether or not you want to interact with it. But I'm really excited to get more into like how we even got into spirit worlds beliefs. Like Sarah, did you always, I guess as a child, feel drawn to the unseen, or is your journey to the spirit world something that you learned as you grew up?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like there's callings, right? If we're called to be doing spiritual work, it's something that kind of has this theme throughout our life.
Yeah.
So without taking us on the scenic route, because I can and I won't, not right now. Um, Always been a spiritual kid. Always had fascinations with the otherworldly stuff. Growing up, me and my mom would like always watch horror movies. That was like
Mm,
our thing.
mm,
Always big into dreams and crystals and magic. I remember love the craft. Growing up, oh, that was my thing. And then slumber parties, we do like light as a
mm,
feather, stiff as a board, type stuff. And so always have loved that kind of and believed in it outside of like mythical things like unicorns and fairies. Definitely still, believe that there's some truth and practice within that. But also a little side note,
mhm.
the I do have family lore, and one of it, one of many, is that the house that like my family grew up in, like my grandparents' house on my mom's side, the lore behind it was that it was haunted. And so there
I
was
what?
really that. I'm like, dang. Too bad it burned, the house burned down. But I was like, man, I'd like to kind of learn more, but I don't think it was I
Hmm.
think there was multiple things going on there, but
Hmm.
There's stories, people always tell stories about the house and the spooky things in the shadows that will come out and
Hmm.
all that stuff. So I think there's some kind of like generationalness around the spirit world.
Hmm.
Outside of like the idea that like my ancestors, like my aunts and uncles and my grandparents also had this ability to um do mediumship or psychic abilities or kind of
Hmm.
knowing, having this intuition. So um there's family members that also practice spirituality in those more in-depth ways.
Hmm.
But also, I mean, I personally have found my own ways of connecting. I find it more explorative. I don't just stick to one thing. If I find out something
Hmm.
new, I like dive into it. But also I work as an intuitive reader, really tapping into my own gifts. Um, I also dove into paranormal investigation. I'm actually learning about it, and I think it's really helpful just to understand the vastness of how spirits can show up in buildings, affect people, and really using critical thinking to discern like, is there a ghost in your house, or do you have some critters in the walls? Or do you have like a squatter living in your attic?
The poltergeist. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And just learning about like a poltergeist versus like a residual haunting. If something intense happens in the house, it's not necessarily haunted, but if it's bad enough, that scene will keep replaying at the time of the incident. I want to know, like, I want you to tell, like, share with us how your connection with the spirit world has developed throughout your life.
Oh man, it is definitely developed. I would say, some children come into this world a little bit more sensitive to the spirit world than others. I wasn't of a young child that saw ghosts. At least I don't, or saw spirits. I don't remember. But I have a cousin who is 3 years older than me, and she constantly talked about the spirits that were around her. There was always this old man around her when we would be playing, and these two girls. And then later, when I saw The Shining, I was like, "Are you sure it wasn't like the twins from The Shining?" But so I was around someone who was extra sensitive to the spirit world in ways that I couldn't really feel or see what she did. So it would be really interesting to also know from people with those sensitivities how they perceive the spirit world. My induction into the world really began when my father passed away. My father passed away when I was a little girl, and he passed away on Halloween.
Oh,
And that just kind of singed me to this date or to the spirit world in general, that it became a very powerful portal that was initiated through death and grief. And as I grew older, I always had more sensitivities between late July till early November. And it always seems to gravitate around the time of my father's passing. And my introduction really to even bridging that gap was through a medium. I did find a Black spiritualist. She connected me more concretely with my father and my father's line. My father passed away on the 31st of October, and then a year later, my grandfather, his father, passed away. And November 1st is known as All Saints' Day, or the beginning of the Dia de los Muertos. So there's just this recurring theme about this time of the year with my family leaving the 3D reality to another one. Um, and really, that began the commencement of me becoming more aware that there was something else. Once I did have connection with my father, just a lot of weird, trippy things started to happen to me around this time of the year. I do consider this time of the year for me now sacred. I have intentional rituals and ceremonies that I do to connect with him, my grandfather, my great grandmother, because I get the most clear information from them that I can't get other times of the year. So for me, it does feel like a energetic portal now. And that has drawn me into my death doula work. So back in the introduction of our series, Sarah and I talked a little bit about what we do. And part of the work I've done is death doula, which is basically end of life care for people that are actively dying. And I helped them to the time of death and also with their family members. Spiritual and administrative support. So if the family feels like there's just so many moving pieces between like a funeral director, family, lawyers, I'm sometimes the person in between, or literally sometimes it's just sitting with the active person dying until they die. Um, and really the death of my father and then later the death of my mother really kind of set me up for this type of work. But when you said that some people just have that calling, yeah, my life definitely didn't initially start off that way, but as I've grown up, that type of work has just roped me more and more through life events.
Everything you said was very, very important and inspirational. But there's two things that stuck out to me of like a lot of times, like our introduction is either witnessing someone who can see and being that person of like, I believe you. Because I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of like, oh yeah, so and so sees ghosts or whatever. And it's like, dude, chill. Versus like, hey, I believe you, like tell me,
Yeah,
right? And so really, really actually believing instead of just casting
curiosity.
it off as like some kind of whatever, I
Yeah.
think is really important. But also, I feel like the segue or like the entry point for like a good amount of people into diving deep into the spirit realm outside of like a church is through death.
Yeah, good
When
point.
you have a death of a loved one, of a parent, of a grandparent, or any close family member, it's like, wait, I still had questions. I still, are you okay? Do you have any things like, is there any
Yeah.
messages you want to give me? Like, tell me, especially if it's someone that had that role in your life of like a role model or someone that you have inspiration from. It's like, can you see me? Do you see what I'm doing? Like, is this good? Like, are you happy? Like, tell me.
All
And
the
that's like
questions.
that like segue into like I need to see a medium. I
Absolutely.
need to know. So I think those things that you mentioned are so important as we dive into spirit world in this way that is more connected to us
Absolutely.
instead of something that seems so far away. And so just because we see it doesn't mean or just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's out of reach. So speaking of segues and um getting people into the spirit world further if they're curious, do do you have any enchant your life tips or tricks to help our listeners kind of dive deeper into the spirit world?
Yeah, my enchant your life trick would be to either perform on yourself or ask for a professional to do a past life meditation. And my reason for that and not a mediumship is because for some people, a mediumship might be intense. If a mediumship is something you want to do with a loved one or, someone that you want to connect to the spirit world, of course, go ahead and do that. But I really want to challenge people to think about past life meditation if you believe in reincarnation or of the belief that you come from a central soul that then has human experiences. Um, and this is because this takes you out of your physical body into your astral body when you're in a past life meditation. And to me, that is the perfect type of introduction to another worlds that you can call the spirit worlds. If you really are interested in past life meditation, feel free to check out my links below. And I will also share information to a teacher who did a past life meditation on me. And that just kind of blew my mind because there were so many synchronicities to my struggles in this life. And I was like, karma, the way karma moves through lifetimes. So that'll be for karma could be a whole other episode. But what about you, Sarah? What is your enchant your life trick or resource for folks?
My first off, I need to do a past life. meditation. So I'm gonna do that because I've
They're
been thinking about
so
that a lot.
cool. There's also trippy. I highly recommend anyone who's in this realm to do a past life meditation.
Yes, like why wouldn't you want to know who you were and what you did in your past life? Also, I'm like, either I did something real like bad or I just decided to like I don't know what I decided. That's why I was like, I need a past life because I'm like, what in my past life? What were we thinking? What were we thinking when signing up for this
Big
decades
fact.
ago? Because right now I'm gonna fight my past self. Anyways, yes, thank you for that. Definitely check out the meditation or seek out services for sure. My enchant your life is to research or find yourself going on a ghost tour. I feel like again we're talking about the spirit world and how it seems so far away, and there's stories, history, lore in everywhere because
Hmm.
people die everywhere.
Hmm.
So so there's places with stories, and fun facts, especially around this time of year. But I feel like ghost tours are kind of like all you can find year round, but more in October. So really looking at what that looks like, and I provided a link that you can look at the description that takes you on a website that you can look at ghost tours around the United States.
Hmm.
Um, but also, like, if you can't find your city there, just look it up. I'm sure there's ghost stories in whatever city you're in, and you can just go and check it out and maybe talk to the owner of the building or something like that, or just even reading about it,
Hmm.
still counts as research. I will say, um, we are still dealing with spiritual entities. We do not know what else is there. So anytime you do any kind of work like this with the spirit world, use your discernment. If you want to go to this building or you want to do this thing and something in your spirit tells you it's not right,
Hmm.
don't go. Spirits can follow you home. Um, so be aware of that. It's rare, but it does happen. So make sure that when you are in these spaces, that you protect your spiritual body. This could just be envisioning like white light in a bubble protecting you. So envisioning that like of doing your own research around how to protect yourself in these spaces, but don't don't go into those spaces unprotected. It's bad, but also have fun. Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for bringing that up. I've never done a walking tour locally. I've done it abroad, but it never occurred to me to like spiritually like pack up protection. That's such a great trick, honestly, especially if you are someone who might be sensitive to the spirit world. That was probably like a very important trick. And you bringing up the ghost tour is reminding me of my invitation to listeners. I would say like I've only done walking tours abroad. This is actually going to be the first time I'm going to do a walking tour in my own city or like a city that I live in. So I would invite you to do the same, like especially if it's closer to your house, the better. Like I think it just connects you with like the lore of your city or of your town in a spiritual way. And it also tis the season. Um, for those that this is maybe not your bread and butter, or you already do this all the time, my other invitation to listeners is to set up an ancestral altar. And this ancestral altar can be, like I said earlier, people that have passed that you were related to, or it can be just people we've always felt an affinity to. For example, I had a friend who set up an altar with a lot of Black revolutionaries of the 60s. Also, Harriet Tubman was on there, Malcolm X. So there's also a wide range that you could define what an ancestor is to you. So if you don't feel immediately called to like your blood lineage, or say you don't have that type of relationship with them before or after their passing, then broaden your definition of an ancestral altar. And some of the things that you would include is the photos of these people that you would like to connect to, anything about them that is either through a food that they liked, or maybe they're known for a trinket, or they're known for a certain action that you can put it into a physical thing. Um, then I would suggest to also put that near the altar. Anything that they could connect to that is similar to the form that they took when they were alive. You want the elements represented, so earth, air, wind, and fire. Use your intuition of where you want to put them because there's so many different cosmologies on which direction go in um, what element. So I would say, unless you are already part of a certain tradition that you know which element goes with which direction, then just use your intuition. And this could be simple things to represent the elements, a bowl of water, a candle for fire, a feather for air, and a crystal for earth. Um, any crystals as well that you want to incorporate that you use with, I usually hold a certain crystal that I use to connect my ancestors. Celestine is the one that I use, or lapis azul if I'm feeling called to it. So any crystals that you like, even if you don't know their meaning, but you're just attracted to the way they look, I will put that on your altar. So just keep it very simple, very basic to start off, and really the most important thing is going to be the intention that which you connect with them. So thank you so much for bringing up the haunted tour, Sarah, because that reminded me of my invitation to listener. But tell me about yours. What is your invitation to our listeners?
Yes. Tell me how that haunted tour goes. Like,
Yes, I will.
love to
Paso, and I
know.
didn't know Paso's actually pretty haunted, which I shouldn't be surprised. Like we're on the border, so much things happen on borders of so many wars, and yeah, so I will
Exactly.
definitely keep you posted.
Yeah. So yes, so curious. Um, so my invitation to listeners is just think about your relationship to the spirit world. We talked about a lot of stuff. Maybe some of these topics were new or something that you forgot about and want to reconnect to. So you can either journal, have a conversation with someone, or ponder, just think about whether you believe in the spirit world. What does that, what feelings come up for you with that? Thinking about how connected do you feel to the spirit world? Is it something that just seems like you watch it on TV and that's it? Or is it something that you deal with on a daily basis and you are connected and communicate to the spirit world all the time? And if so, like how? How do you do that? And then also, was there anything that we talked about that was new that you would like to try? And then really diving into what steps you can take to dive into it a little further, whether it is setting up an altar, going on a ghost tour, researching the history of your city, thinking about the dimensions of the spirit world, or looking at the various ways that people practice connecting to the spirit world and seeing if you want to take in any interest to that as well, whether it's through mediumship, psychic work, paranormal investigation. Yeah,
I love
take
it.
some time to think about it.
Absolutely. This has been such a great conversation. I feel like we could have talked about the spirit world forever.
Literally,
For
literally.
most of our topics was like we could be here for hours, but alas, we try to keep y'all, in here for a short amount of time, just so you know, you get the gist of what we're talking about.
Yeah, keep it short and sweet.
We are about to wrap up this episode, but before we do, Sarah, could you please do the honors of giving us the riddle for a clue of the next topic?
Absolutely. All right. So, the riddle for next episode is in this realm we coexist. In other realms we may assist. Throughout time and folk stories, we hold wild wisdom based on our beastly category. Through land, air, and sea, what topic could we possibly be?
Mm. Stay tuned. Stay
Yes.
tuned. And please like and subscribe if you like this content. Drop any of your guesses about the riddle for next week's topic. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. And as a reminder, my name is Alex.
And my name is Sarah.
Thank you for coming to the Sun and the Moon Talks. See you later, sun.
Bye.